What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Ming the Merciless 93 back here with more PokerVIP.com strategy video action, and we are playing some micro stakes game technology. We've got the Jack and the 7. This is a board texture in a limp pot where who knows what this guy could have, but we are going to go ahead and lead with our Jack of Hearts. If we didn't have the Jack of Hearts here, we're probably less likely to do this. Our equity is significantly worse without a heart in our hand. It's a little bit difficult. And I wear my heart in my hand and on my sleeve. And usually I just smear it on down the old shoulder blade. We're going to fold to the 20-cent raise with our 7-4 of the offsuit variety. When you're playing these micro stakes games, you really just want to play straightforward, ABC, good solid poker, value bet a lot, expect your opponents to be passive in a sense that checking ranges are not going to be as protected, first of all, and checking ranges aren't going to be attacked. So you're not going to induce as many bluffs in these games. That's definitely something to consider. We're going to be doing a two-part video here. Just kind of going from there. See what's going on down here at the old micro stakes on Global Poker. Finished up our gold coin videos. If you haven't checked those out, maybe give them the old heave-ho. They're kind of funny. I mean, there's a little bit of good discussion in there. You know, it's not necessarily a ton of insane poker strategy, but there is some. There's a little bit. It's always insane because it's me. There is something to think about. All right. This guy's posting, but 9-10 offsuit off the button is not, or it's not someplace we want to be. If we had the button, we could consider raising, but off the button, we're just going to pass on that. You got raise it up from Crescent City. I want your something or other. I'm not really sure what that's all about. Somebody recognizes me. Are you streaming today? No, I'm making a video. Should be streaming tomorrow. Alright, we're going to fold 3-5 offsuit. So Crescent City knows who we are. It's fantastic. That's funny. 10-8-10 board texture, some gut shots, some straight draws. See what these guys are up to in the old 12-cent pot. Check over to the button. And Jack's all in. What do you have to say about this, sir? Alright, looks like it's going to check around, and the 5 of hearts doesn't change much. Puts up about the same amount of draws. You know, a few of the worst end of thing, like 4-6 now has a gut shot, rather than the old 6-7 that already had one, but now gets the open-ended straight draw treatment. That's not exactly red carpet treatment, though. Come on, guys. Somebody bet, for fuck's sake. This is what I'm talking about, you guys. This is passive, passive, passive. I mean, once it checks twice, like, somebody just bet. You know, no one's really slow playing that much here. They just would have been shoveling the money in on the turn if somebody had a 10. Like, the guy on the button could probably just bet twice, and he would have just sort of won that pot. Like, once both players out of position check to you twice on that spot, and you can have 10s, and they probably bet their 10s most of the time, rather than, you know, going for that check raise savvy on the turn. It's a pretty damn nice spot. And we have a limp on the button, an isolate. We're just going to call. We don't have a reason to 3-bet here. Let the other guy in, play a 3-way pot. We have position on the razor. He's going to bet a really small amount here on a board where he's going to have ace-high a lot. This is a pretty good combo because if he does hit a 5, we're going to wreck him. Plus we have a backdoor flush draw. 2 overcards that are good against his ace-jacks and ace-queens. So it ends up being a pretty fair spot to call. And once this guy pots it up, I would assume that we're just going to both fold. Just not going to dick around with it. Floating out of position there on a board where we don't really get much accomplished on turns and rivers is pretty rough for us. We'll go ahead and raise it up with our ace-king. Getting that fold, baby. Getting that fold. That's what's up. And we're going to raise it up here on the button with our queen 10. And since we're at the micros, I am just going to raise 3x rather than using any sort of 2x or 2.5x strategy for raise size on the button. See what our good friend Beru, B-Raz. We're going to take that down. That's 2 in a row. Let's see if we can make it 3. We got to ride the lightning, man, like Doyle Brunson once said. He said, don't be afraid to go out on the fruit because that's where the limb is. Wait. We're going to go ahead and check it. And this is a board texture we're not interacting very favorably with, so we're just going to fold to further action. The old ace-10. This guy just like fucking bombs the living hell out of it with the ace-10 offsuit in the small blind. We'll just get out of his way. And 9-4 offsuit, not a playable combination. Get the hell out of dodge with that as well. There's going to be quite a bit of folding going on when you're playing in micro stakes games. Quite a bit of folding. Not always going to be folding, but there is quite a bit of folding. Not going to lie. Oh, yeah, you were ahead anyway, man. You just wasted a set. Just wasted hitting a set. Yes, I know we had a boat, but you know what I'm saying. Like, if you're already ahead, I mean, I guess it's better than having a king there, but damn. Fold our 6-4 offsuit. Folding Jack 5 offsuit on the button. Motown style. Motown. Another big ass bet all in with this dude that wants your. Well, I want your. I don't know what he's talking about. We'll just pass on it. Not even going to try to evaluate it. Looks like he's going to flat the 36. That is pretty strong with this guy just being all in. You'd have to assume he has some sort of big ace or a pair. And not necessarily just dicking around with something like 9-10 suited. I didn't really have a set here ever. And when he bets, you got to assume he has something like pocket 10s, pocket 8s. And he just wants to get to showdown. He might be ahead. You know, the other guy could still have a bunch of ace-jack and ace-king. And maybe we see a pot-sized bet on this river. That 8 does kind of hit him. I guess he doesn't have 8s here. Yes, king 10. All right. Well, micro stakes, guys. Micro stakes. You'd have to assume that king 10 would be in the folding range in any normal circumstances. However, here it's in the call and donk, 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 donk range. Which is why you just have to play relatively straightforward, because players' ranges can often be wild and wacky. Yes, wild and wacky. Kind of like a trip to a water slide joint. It's kind of wild and wacky. You guys ever go to that? It's like kind of like a big-ass public pool. They have like the wave pool. You like stand, and there's a bunch of waves, and there's just a bunch of people just standing around loitering in this pool. It's just utter nonsense. Like, what are you people doing? Why is it that we want to go down water slides anyway? That is terrifying. Anyway, we've got 9-7 of diamonds in the big blind. We're going to fold queen 9 offsuit in this position. You probably need to do more folding than you think. Let's see what we've got. Affy's out of the way. The Great Green, Crazy Loke. What's up, Tone Loke? You got something for me, man? We're going to defend the big blind, and if the... What the fuck are you doing, man? We're going to fold the 9-7 to the abstract raise size of 7x. I think we can fold this. Generally, I only call 6.5x with 9-7 suited. Alright, we're out of here. We're done. That's a wrap. Even with the other dummy in the pot, we're out of here, man. Even with B-Roo. Okay, half pot bet, fold. Standard, dry board. Good, good, good. 4-6 offsuit, mostly folding this combination. Especially when he's opening to any abstract 7 to 10x sizing preflop. Uh-huh. Alright, Affy's going to make the call. And that's one feature of casual players in general, is that they don't really give much credence to the bet sizing of their opponents. They often just play their hand whimsically, emotionally. You know, it's like, if I like 7-8 suited, I'm playing it, and I don't care if you made it 10x pre-flop because I'm trying to see a flop. Because for them, it's like slot machine. You know what I mean? They're just trying to see a flop. This is how much I have to pay to take a spin on the wheel. So it's important not to get aggravated or angry when a player does something that you wouldn't do, or something that you don't like because it's not correct or proper poker strategy. instead of getting mad about them doing something that shouldn't be done because it's not quote-unquote correct and then getting lucky, why don't you figure out how you can better exploit or make money off of their strategy? If their strategy is to call any size pre-flop raise, your strategy should be to raise very large with your strong hands. Think about what the problem is, and then think about a solution. We're not going to 3-bet with ace-6 offsuit, especially if this dude knows me. Definitely going to be 3-betting quite a bit from the small blind. A little bit less with black-eyed being in the back there with a shorter stack, and this dude knowing who I am. I'm still going to 3-bet quite a bit, but, you know, no, we're not going to get to the ace-6 offsuit variety. Plenty of better combos. And we got that gut shot, any 2 cards, lead for 4 cents. I wouldn't call here, I'd fold, but strictly because my stack size was 666. And let's see if he can get a fold. Or maybe he's trying to get a call. I don't know, man. I don't know. And that guy showed King 10 before. You'd have to assume that this could be a bluff quite a bit. Plus, we don't know if Crescent City Kid is going to try to get his like fancy style on or whatever for the video or anything like that. Then come watch the video. What's up, Crescent City? How you doing, man? How you doing? Hopefully we had fun when we made this video. If you're watching it, like, you know, a month in the future or something. Okay, we're going to isolate with our King 10 offsuit on the button over 2 limp pimps. Big Sauce might be limping a pretty strong range here. It's hard to say exactly. And 7-2-3 with no club in our hand. We're still going to go ahead and half pot. Not amazing, but I do expect him to fold some portion of his range. And, you know, we do have some ability to barrel. And we do have 2 overs to a pair. Probably has a bunch of ragged-ass ace-x combos. We get to fold, and I'm pretty happy about it. Queen 6 is going to be a fold. Jack 9 of diamonds, certainly going to be raising this up. All right. We get a flat call by Tone Loc on the button. We'll see if Biru wants to take a ride. Biru's in the tank, deep in the tank. We have a gutter ball and a backdoor flush draw on a board texture where we can still get called by worse combos even. Hands like 5-6 and 4-6. So we're going to go ahead and bet, even though technically that board is a bit better for them. That is a great turn card for us, and now we can just go ahead and triple barrel off. The one thing I like about betting in spots like this to triple is that if your opponent has a good hand and they shove, it prevents you from wasting a bluff on the river. So if we have no fold equity on the river and he shoves a value combo on the turn, that's amazing for us. It's amazing. And honestly, he's not necessarily incorrect in doing so, because a lot of his opponents aren't going to have the capability of bluffing the river or thinly value betting. So if he's going to stack aces and he has 2 pair a set there, or ace-king, chances are his best way of doing that is by shoving on the turn. That's going to be good against opponents at these games, in these games rather, and a little bit worse against higher stakes opponents, even 25NL opponents who are regs that understand a bit more about what they're supposed to be doing on the river as far as value betting goes, and then occasionally bluffing. But even in those games, even up to 100 NL, even at 200 NL, you see guys that just don't have enough bluffs on the river. They don't have enough bluffs, and oftentimes they don't value bet thinly enough. So I think it's a really good spot for us to just be triple barreling. And especially in live games when the players just like raise every time they have you beat and call every time you have them beat. So you realize the most of your equity when you're double barreling with draws. You get to triple barrel against the weakest parts of their range because their strong portions of their range raise you on the turn or sometimes raise you on the flop. So you're literally triple barreling with equity. And obviously you can still give up on some rivers with some of your hands, but it's just like the most beautiful thing for you. When you're value betting, you're never going to get put in a tough spot because they almost always have it. And when you're betting equity, you almost always realize it, and you never face a raise on the turn that often unless you're beat, like crushed. I mean, it's just so beautiful. It's like almost a free roll. It's like a fucking equity free roll. We got ace-9 and 10-8, both of these spaded variety. And Tone Loc's going to raise it up. And I think with 2 dudes here that are just like half stack bros, you know, like this guy's almost going to, we're going to probably call now. I don't really see much of a reason to squeeze, but we're definitely going to call. This guy only has 98 cents, so we're just going to go ahead and put this in the check range. We flop a monster hand. We could lead out here, but I have to assume that Black Eye's going to do his like little 4-cent lead. He actually pots it, and we just have a check shove combo here. Like if he ever has, you know, flip, that's perfect for us. Clearly we have a 10 here. It's kind of suspect, but we're certainly going to call for that small amount. And are we going to win? No, we're going to lose a flip against pocket 10s, which is fine. Why is this guy like calling me sauce? I'm not. Oh, big sauce. He's talking about big sauce. I got you. He's styling. All right. So once this turn card hits and this guy's potting it, you know, this is kind of the jig is up. Unfortunately for us, he randomly bluffs us off the best hand, which is okay. We'll just kind of keep note that you know, he's doing abstract things with way too wide of a range. But I mean, I believe that's the correct fold with that action on that turn card. He should have a jack there quite a bit. Plus the other guys are in the pot and whatnot. It's not a lot amazing, really. We will rebuy here. We will rebuy. Rebuy. Andale. Where's the motherfucking? Give me chips, bitch. Yeah, give me that chips. I realize that my balance on here is $12, guys. I wanted to make some videos for y'all. I stopped playing online for the short period of time, and took everything off of every site basically, other than, you know, playing tournaments, some on WPN, and then the occasional, you know, Ignition, whatever. And I'm basically playing live full time now, cash games. So that's why you see the old $12 bankroll. Literally just making a video for y'all here on our dear global. We're gonna raise it up with the ace 10 of clubs, and over here we're sporting wood on the queen 10 of diamonds. Pretty good board texture for us. We are going to lose to some combinations here. Thankfully, there's not a ton. Relatively large bet size. Here we're going to be using another large bet size on wet boards with not tons of fold equity. And if we get raised, we're probably just going to have to get it in either of these spots. We're going to raise it up here. The 3 is not amazing. Most of his 3s are going to be suited, so we still have the best hand quite a bit against flush draws, straight draws, and of course worst 10. So it's very clearly a value bet. So this is kind of a turn card where we talked about this before. This is going to be a turn card where, and that king doesn't really change a ton. I mean, I guess you could have king 8. I guess he could have king 10. If he had a 3, he might raise the turn. He could have king X of spades. I'm going to check back on the river, but if there weren't 2 flush draws out here to add a few more kings to his range, I probably would just go ahead and value bet the river as well. I just shove. So in this spot, we want to take our equity if we can, because he's going to have a lot of 7s. In this spot with the king out there, that's better for us because it's one of the flushes that beats us. So I think we can just value shove here against straights, basically. And if we have if he has the nut flush, he probably doesn't lead the turn like that. Yeah, basically. So on that turn card, if it checked to us, I would say, well, he sometimes has 2 pair here. He sometimes has a set that isn't folding, and he sometimes has a 7. And we are in a spot where our queen and our 10 are most likely not good now because of all the straights, 2 pairs sets he can have. And we're basically just going to get folds from hands we block, you know, like some sort of ace 10 float, something like that. And we just want to take our equity since our pairs aren't really that good. And we just want to hit that diamond and play a river. Now, it is nice to hit a diamond there, and the king of diamonds or the ace of diamonds are both particularly good because then we get to stack his 7s, and there's less combos of hands that beat us. So definitely happy with that one. You definitely don't want to block hands that you beat when you're considering value betting, calling, whatever. You know, and I'm not saying that you're not going to use, because a lot of the times you're going to play suited connectors. You're going to have 10 jack, for instance, suited, and you're going to have 9-10 suited. But just, you know, optimally, if you're in a spot where you just have like a jack high flush, you wouldn't want a 10, a 9, or an 8 in your hand. You'd at that point rather have some, you know, garbage 5, because at least a 5 is going to block ace 5, and you don't block any of the other middling suited connectors from hands that you beat. But that's obviously just like in a perfect world. Perfect strangers, Balky style. Oh, cousin. What was that guy's name? Balky Bartokamus? Yeah, Balky Bartokamus. So Crescent City King has bounced. He doesn't want to be in the video anymore. Instead, we have some weird things happening. Some strange things. We have Jack Deuce of Spades. It's going to be a fold. I would raise Jack 6, Jack 7-ish, depending on the button and his frequencies. If he folds a ton, then we're going to raise like nutcases. And if he calls and 3-bets at quite a decent frequency, then we're just going to be tighter. Pre-flop ranges are definitely subjective. You have hands that should be obvious opens, and you have hands that should be obvious folds, and everything that sort of falls in between is going to directly relate to how the tables are playing. If the table is playing passively and you're getting a good bit of folds and you have good control over your opponent's post-flop, you should be playing more hands. And if there's a lot of 3-betting going on, a lot of squeezing going on, and you're not really winning as often post-flop from a red line perspective because your opponents are just interacting a ton, then you're going to want to play tighter so that you have a stronger range. So when you are bluffing, you're very often bluffing with higher equity semi-bluffs rather than just like, well, I have a backdoor gut shot. I'm just going to fold out of position with Queen 5 here. I mean, that's obviously a combo we could raise, but we're just going to play relatively straightforward. Uh-oh, Crescent City wants in. He's telling this guy to get out of here so he can get back in. We have the King of Hearts and the Jack of Spades. We're going to go ahead and isolate. If Big Sauce limps as well, we are still isolating. Either way you look at it, we are going to put the old isolation in here. Unless Big Sauce raises. Big Sauce raises, I'll just get out of their way. We're just going to fold. We'll go ahead and put the old pot-size isolation. And we're going to fold King 4 of Hearts. This is a good board texture for us since they probably don't have a lot of ace-queens, although they might. A lot of times they just have a 5 here or just some garbage. So I think we're just going to call and then see what happens on the turn. Because if I had a queen, I would just call. And if they go again with a 4-cent bet on the turn, we could probably start to raise them off of whatever, you know, pocket fours or something like that. So I think we're actually just going to raise here. We're going to make it 64 cents with the good blockers. And now we have a little bit of additional equity as well. It's a little bit dangerous because we definitely want to realize the equity of our open-ended straight draw. So if he gets, if we get shoved on, it sucks. But at the same time, we knew that he had a queen, and we know that he's capable of using that bet sizing with a queen. Now here you can see that his line is congruent with a hand that wants to get the showdown, that doesn't want to call a big bet or play a big pot. So, the safety in raising there is kind of from them playing straightforwardly in a sense that you can assume that they're not going to ever shove as a bluff. And if they call, then they probably have a queen quite frequently. That's not a spot where you necessarily want to just raise the turn and shovel the river. Once you get called, I would play a little more straightforwardly. I'm just going to go ahead and pot it here versus check back with the straight flush draw. This is a spot where he's going to have a club a lot of the time as well, so we are going to go ahead and continue betting the river, especially when he snap checks back. And, if we get called, we get called. And he has a queen, and he just snap checked the flop. It looked like he had that check fold button on, but all right, you got me. You got me. That's fine. That's fine. Sometimes you get got, folks. Sometimes you get got. I make a note on this guy. I make a note. Just put the green on him and just say limp, queen, deuce, offsuit, snap, check, top, pair, back, call, 2. And that's fine. At least we have a blocker to straights and a blocker to flushes there and a blocker to queen jack. So I actually think that our specific hand is not a bad bluffing combo anyway. But a lot of the time he'll just check back and he'll just have a club, call the turn, fold the river. Yeah, it's a good spot to bluff. It didn't work out this time, but that's okay. You have to sort of take the idea that a hand, quote-unquote, didn't work and think about it in terms and relation to the entirety of your range. So it didn't work in a vacuum because this hand was a bluff and it didn't get the fold, but it did work in a sense that your value combos got called by a queen with a deuce kicker. So the only time you're having a problem with that spot long term is if you're over bluffing versus your value combos. So I could have easily just had ace of clubs 8, or I could have easily just had any other club in my hand and I'm getting called by a queen there. So the only time I'm really out of line is if I've got like king 10 of diamonds or some weirdo combo, some non-club, non-straight, like having the 8 of clubs specifically and then having a blocker to queen jack, which may check back for some players, is a pretty good combo to be bluffing with because a lot of his calling range on the river is either going to be a surprise straight, some sort of flush, a check back passively, or a hand like Queen Jack or Queen X. And obviously here he's limping Queen Deuce. There's a bunch of extra queens in his range, and now we know that he's capable of just checking back and calling too. So maybe we taper off, you know, some of our bluffs and just use some of the better ones. And maybe if he never has folds on any street, then we just don't bluff at all and just value bet thinner. Like you might value bet Queen 9, for instance, on that board because he's going to call you with Queen Deuce. So you might value bet anything that's over the board is kind of a free roll if he never has better and he always has like chops or worse, and you're kind of in a free roll spot and he never turns anything into a bluff or anything like that. So it ends up being relatively favorable for us in a number of spots. But yeah, just thinking about their calling combinations on the river, Queen Jack would be one, you know, a straight would be one, a flush would be one. So our specific Jack with the 8 of clubs is pretty good. Yeah, you don't want to think about things in terms of what happened in a vacuum in this hand from a results perspective. You want to think about what happened for my range. And if I have a flush there, I got paid off. If I have a set there, I got paid off. And I need some bluffs to counteract that. And that's a pretty decent bluffing combo because it blocks a good bit of all the things that would be calling the river. So it makes a good bit of sense. And it doesn't block any of the check back, call turn, fold river with Jack of clubs, King of clubs, Ace of clubs, you know, a small pair with a club that's just a little bit on the fishy side. So there's a good bit of that stuff that's floating around. And I think that's a good way to look at those spots in general. And to think about it. I think it's important to think about it like that. Because a lot of the times, people just look at the spot and they say, oh, I value bet and didn't get a call. But they don't feel bad about it. They'd rather have gotten a call, but there's no negative pain. You didn't lose anything. You just didn't gain anything else. So there's not as much negative attachment to it, to the point where you might even be lazy about your bet sizing. Maybe you should have used a different bet sizing that would have gotten called more frequently. Maybe you should have split your range exploitatively in a sense that your bluffs are bigger and that your value bets are smaller, or depending on your opponent's thought process, the opposite of that. Either way, when you look at a spot and you're using a balanced range with variable bet sizing and a mixed strategy, you can't really be worried about any one result in a vacuum. Whether you had a value hand that didn't get called or a bluff that did get called, both would be considered negative results. But if you flip it around and you look at your value, bets making money when your bluff gets called, and your bluff making money when your value bets don't get called, as long as you are using all of them together and they're functioning as an army, then you're okay. As long as you're not bluffing, you have like a 7-to-1 bluff ratio versus, your value combos or whatever else. As long as your ratios are relatively in line, even if they're not perfect, it's going to be way better for you in those scenarios. Way better than if they were super out of line, and then you move towards exploitation as it makes sense. Well, this guy's never folding the river, so I'm just going to value bet thin and never bluff. And this guy's always folding the river, so I'm going to make my value bet smaller, and I'm just going to bluff all the time for a normal amount. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you can look at exploiting your opponent's average tendencies. And that's why it makes it harder for you when you have an opponent who is also using a mixed strategy, because no one idea is going to stick out as a good way to exploit them. You can look at the spot and say, all right, I was going to call some on the river, and he's going to fold some on the river, and he's going to bluff some if I check, but he's not going to bluff like a fucking nutcase. I mean, that's definitely more difficult for us to deal with because there's not a clear method of exploitation. You might find the occasional nook and cranny, but a guy who's even pretending to be balanced and you don't play with him every single day, all day, you're not going to have as many opportunities, and you're not going to draw out those leaks or any leaks that he has in his balanced game as frequently. And it's just, it's just harder to make money off of a mixed strategy than it is a dude that isn't using a mixed strategy and he's using a linear face up, call too much, fold too much, bet too big, bet too little. All of those casual player strategies that don't really, they don't really make life miserable for you. They make life easy. And from there, it's just about dealing with the variance of poker itself and putting in the time grinding. But we are coming up on the end of this video in just a minute here. We will continue on with a second part of this. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the discussion. And again, you can check me out at twitch.tv/MingTheMerciless93, or follow up with me on Twitter at EmperorMing93. And I do offer cash game and some MTT coaching, theory, combinatorics, all that kind of stuff going on. You can always get in touch with me on either of those platforms if you'd like to set up a session. And you can check a lot of that stuff out on Twitch anyway. So I'll catch you guys on the flip side. This is Ming the Merciless 93 for PokerVIP.com. We'll catch you again with the second part of this video in just a bit. Peace.